You wake up at 3 a.m. Your eyes snap open into the inky blackness. The house is eerily silent. Everyone else is lost in their dreams. But something has plucked you right out of your own, dragging you to this very moment, wide awake in the dead of night. This happens to millions, and most chalk it up to chance. A simple hiccup in their sleep pattern, perhaps too much coffee, maybe just lingering stress from the daily grind. But Albert Einstein, he understood something more. Einstein grasped the unique quality of those hours between 2 and 4 a.m., a time most dismiss entirely. He knew why the mind shifts, why thoughts, unthinkable during the day, feel suddenly accessible in the dark, why some of humanity's greatest discoveries sprung from minds that were awake when they should have been asleep. And if you are one of those souls who regularly finds themselves awake at 3 a.m., Einstein's insights, well, they might just change the way you perceive those mysterious hours forever. Let me share what Einstein knew. First, it's crucial to understand Einstein's own sleep habits. While many of us aim for around 7 hours of sleep each night, Einstein insisted on at least 10, sometimes more. He saw sleep not as wasted time, but as an investment, productive time, where the brain could accomplish tasks beyond the reach of our conscious minds. He was famously fond of naps during the day, but these weren't your average cat naps. Einstein crafted a unique technique, allowing him to tap into a peculiar state of consciousness, one that exists right at the edge between wakefulness and slumber. Here's how it worked. Einstein would settle into an armchair, spoon in hand. Beneath his hand, resting on the floor, he'd place a metal plate. Then he would allow himself to gently succumb to slumber, not fully asleep, just drifting. And the instant he crossed that threshold into actual sleep, his hand would relax, the spoon would fall, and the clang of metal on metal would jolt him awake. Sounds like a strange ritual, doesn't it? But Einstein was accessing something that modern science is only now beginning to truly understand. It's called the hypnagogic state. The hypnagogic state is that fleeting window of consciousness, that brief moment as you are falling asleep. It typically lasts a mere 2 minutes. During this window, your brain is buzzing with unusual activity. It's still processing the day's events, but it's also beginning to conjure the images and connections that define our dreams. In this state, the rigid rules of thinking dissolve. Connections form between ideas that would never meet in normal waking consciousness. The rational mind loosens its grip, and something else takes over. Einstein believed this something else was the wellspring of his most profound insights. In 2021, researchers at the Paris Brain Institute actually confirmed what Einstein had intuitively grasped a century earlier. They discovered that individuals who lingered in the hypnagogic state for at least 15 seconds were 3 times more likely to crack difficult problems than those who remained fully awake. 3 times more likely. Think about that. The researchers dubbed it the creative nap. And the key, they found, was to hover within the hypnagogic state without succumbing to full sleep. Precisely what Einstein's spoon technique was designed to achieve. But there's even more to the science of sleep and insight. Researchers have also unearthed something called sleep spindles. These are essentially bursts of brain activity that occur during light sleep. They appear as sudden spikes on an EEG reading, and they seem to be inextricably linked to intelligence. Studies have revealed that individuals with more sleep spindles during the night tend to exhibit greater fluid intelligence. This is the capacity to tackle new problems, discern patterns, and engage in abstract thought. The very kind of intelligence that propelled Einstein to fame. Sleep spindles are most prevalent during transitions between sleep stages, and one of the most significant transitions occurs around 3 a.m., when the brain shifts from deep sleep into lighter, dream-rich REM sleep. This transition is more than just a biological process. It's a cognitive one. The brain is switching gears, moving from one mode of processing to another. And if you happen to wake during this shift, you are essentially catching your mind in a state of exceptional flexibility. At this moment, your brain is quite literally rewiring itself, reinforcing certain neural pathways while pruning others. It's integrating new information with existing memories. It's performing the essential maintenance that makes insight possible. Even during the day, when you wake at 3 a.m., you are witnessing this intricate process firsthand. You are conscious during a time when consciousness is typically absent, and that creates a unique opportunity. But here's where all of this connects to your waking up at 3 a.m. You see, the hypnagogic state isn't just accessible when falling asleep. There's another window where the brain enters a similar state, and that window opens in the middle of the night, roughly between 2 and 4 a.m. During these hours, something shifts in your brain chemistry. Throughout the night, your body diligently produces melatonin, the hormone responsible for regulating sleep. Melatonin levels surge after sunset and remain elevated throughout the night, but they reach their peak somewhere around 3 a.m. Simultaneously, your cortisol levels are at their lowest. Cortisol, the hormone linked to stress and alertness. During the day, cortisol keeps you laser-focused on practical matters. But at 3 a.m., cortisol is almost completely absent from your system. This unique combination, peak melatonin and minimal cortisol, creates a distinct neurochemical environment. Your brain enters a state that mirrors the hypnagogic threshold. The rational mind is subdued. The associative, intuitive mind is activated. This is precisely why people who wake at 3 a.m. so often report unusual experiences. Some sense a presence in the room. Some experience vivid insights or profound realizations. Some are overwhelmed by emotions of unusual intensity. Some feel deeply connected to something larger than themselves. For millennia, cultures around the world have recognized this hour as something special. In medieval Europe, it was famously known as the bewitching hour. The prevailing belief was that supernatural forces were at their zenith between 3 and 4 a.m. Demons roamed freely. The veil between worlds thinned. Prayers whispered in the darkness held extraordinary power. In Christian tradition, 3 a.m. was viewed as the antithesis of 3 p.m., the hour when Christ was believed to have died. If 3 p.m. was the hour of divine sacrifice, then 3 a.m. was the hour of darkness, when evil reigned supreme. Contemporary individuals often dismiss these beliefs as mere superstition. But Albert Einstein, he would have recognized something else within them. Einstein wasn't superstitious. He didn't subscribe to beliefs in demons or supernatural forces, but he understood that ancient beliefs often encoded genuine observations about the human experience. The very fact that cultures around the globe independently identified this hour as significant strongly suggested that something real was occurring, and that something Einstein would have surely asserted was ultimately neurological. But there's another layer to this story that most people just don't know. For much of human history, people didn't sleep the way we do today. They didn't try to force themselves into one continuous 8-hour block of sleep. Instead, they slept in 2 shifts. Historians have documented this sleep pattern across countless cultures and centuries. People would drift off to sleep shortly after sunset, sleep for 4 or 5 hours, then wake up naturally in the middle of the night. They'd stay awake for an hour or 2 and then drift back to sleep until dawn. This middle-of-the-night waking period, it even had a name. It was called the watch, or the watching hour. And it wasn't considered some kind of sleep disorder. It was considered normal. So, what did people do during this hour? Some whispered prayers in the darkness. Some meditated. Some made love. Some simply lay in bed, just thinking. Some got up and did quiet chores by candlelight. Some even visited neighbors who were also awake. The point is, being awake in the middle of the night wasn't seen as insomnia. It was seen as a natural part of human sleep, a time set aside for reflection and connection. It was only in the 19th century, with the invention of electric lighting and the demands of industrialized work schedules, that humans began trying to force sleep into one consolidated block. We changed our sleep patterns to match the needs of factories and offices. But our biology didn't change. Our brains still operate on that ancient pattern. The tendency to wake in the middle of the night isn't a disorder. It's a feature of human neurology that modern life has tried to suppress. So when you wake at 3 a.m., you might not be experiencing a problem. You might be experiencing your brain, trying to return to its natural rhythm, a rhythm that served humanity for hundreds of thousands of years. And this brings us back to Albert Einstein. The brain at 3 a.m. is not the same as the brain at 3 p.m. During the day, your prefrontal cortex dominates your thinking. This is the part of the brain responsible for logic, planning, and rational analysis. It filters out irrelevant information. It keeps you focused on practical tasks. It tells you what is possible and what is impossible. But at 3 a.m., the prefrontal cortex is less active. That filtering function, it relaxes. Ideas that would be dismissed out of hand during the day can surface and be considered. Connections that seem absurd in daylight can suddenly feel profound. This isn't supernatural, this is biology, but the experience can feel supernatural because it's so different from normal waking consciousness. Albert Einstein knew this difference intimately. He spent his entire career working with ideas that seemed impossible to the rational mind. The idea that time could slow down, the idea that space could bend, the idea that mass and energy were the same thing. These ideas didn't come from logical deduction alone. They came from intuition, from the part of the mind that operates beneath conscious awareness, from that faculty that Einstein called the sacred gift. He said, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift." Think about what this means. Albert Einstein, the greatest scientist of the 20th century, believed that intuition was more important than reason. He believed that the rational mind was merely a servant, useful for checking and developing ideas, but not the source of the ideas themselves. The source was something else, something deeper, something that spoke most clearly when the rational mind was quiet. And when is the rational mind quietest? At 3 a.m. This is why so many great thinkers have done their best work in the hours when most people are fast asleep. The physicist Nikola Tesla, he worked through the night and only slept for maybe 2 hours. He claimed that his visions and insights came during periods of exhaustion when his conscious mind could no longer maintain control. The chemist Dmitri Mendeleev, he discovered the periodic table in a dream. He'd been struggling for weeks to organize the elements into a coherent pattern. Then one night, he dreamed of a table where all the elements fell into place. He woke up and wrote it down immediately. The mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan attributed his discoveries to a Hindu goddess who appeared to him in dreams. He would wake with complex formulas fully formed in his mind, formulas that took other mathematicians years to verify. And Albert Einstein himself claimed that his theory of special relativity came from a dream. In the dream, he was a farmer watching cows near an electric fence. When the electricity was turned on, Albert Einstein saw all the cows jump back at the same moment. But a friend standing at the other end of the fence saw the cows jump one after another in sequence. When Albert Einstein woke, He realized that the same event could look different from different perspectives. This simple insight, born in a dream, eventually led to the theory that revolutionized physics. So what does this all mean for you waking at 3 a.m.? It means you're experiencing a window of consciousness that has produced some of the greatest insights in human history. It means your brain is in a state that Albert Einstein deliberately cultivated through his napping technique. It means the rational mind that dominates your daytime experience has temporarily stepped aside. The question is, what you do with this window? Most people treat waking at 3 a.m. as a problem to be solved. They try to fall back asleep immediately. They take sleeping pills. They lie in bed frustrated, watching the minutes slip away. But Albert Einstein would have seen it differently. He would have recognized that the mind at 3 a.m. has access to something the daytime mind does not. He would have understood that the feelings and thoughts that arise in this window aren't just random noise, but potentially valuable signals. Thomas Edison, another genius of that era, he had a similar understanding. He famously said, "Never go to sleep without a request to your subconscious." Edison meant this literally. Before sleeping, he would focus on a problem he was trying to solve. He would hold the question in his mind as he drifted off, and often he would wake with insights or ideas that had eluded him during the day. This isn't magic. This is just how the brain works. When you sleep, your brain doesn't just shut off. It enters a different mode of processing. During the day, your brain focuses on immediate concerns, survival, social interaction, practical tasks. But during sleep, the brain shifts to a different agenda. It consolidates memories, so it processes emotions. It makes connections between ideas that were stored separately. It solves problems that the conscious mind just couldn't crack. And all of this activity, it reaches a kind of peak in the hours around 3 a.m. This is when REM sleep is at its most intense. REM, or rapid eye movement, stands for rapid eye movement, and it's the sleep stage we associate with those vivid dreams. By 3 a.m., most of us have completed our deepest sleep and are now cycling through lighter periods filled with dreams. So if something wakes you during this phase, you're not just surfacing from unconsciousness, you're actually emerging from an active, creative state of brain function. The thoughts and feelings you experience upon waking are remnants, residue from that creative state. Interestingly, many spiritual traditions have recognized this and even built practices around it. In Christianity, the monastic tradition of vigils involved waking in the dead of night for prayer and contemplation. Monks genuinely believed that prayers whispered in the darkness held a special power, a heightened connection. In Islam, the practice of tahajjud encourages waking in the final third of the night for voluntary prayer. This time is considered among the most spiritually potent for forging a deep connection with the divine. In Buddhism, those wee hours before dawn are considered ideal for meditation. The mind is naturally quieter, distractions are at a minimum, and that boundary, that perceived separation between self and the world, feels far more permeable. Traditional Chinese medicine offers yet another compelling perspective. According to the Chinese body clock, each 2-hour window in the day corresponds to a different organ system. Those hours between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. are linked to the liver, while the hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. are associated with the lungs. The liver in Chinese medicine is intricately connected to emotions like anger and frustration. So, if you consistently find yourself waking between 1 and 3 a.m., practitioners might suggest that you're harboring unresolved anger that needs to be processed. The lungs, on the other hand, are linked to grief and sadness. Therefore, if you wake between 3 and 5 a.m., the interpretation would likely be that you are actively processing some form of loss or sorrow. Now, this Albert Einstein wouldn't have necessarily embraced the metaphysical framework of Chinese medicine, but he absolutely would have recognized what it was ultimately pointing toward. The body and mind aren't separate entities. Emotions aren't divorced from our biology. The patterns of our waking and sleeping lives reflect far deeper patterns in our overall psychological and physical well-being. When you wake at a particular hour, it might not be random. It could very well be your body's intricate system trying to communicate something, a signal rising from below the surface of conscious awareness, a message originating from that part of you that's constantly processing even while you sleep. Einstein wouldn't have endorsed the supernatural claims of any religion, but he would have deeply understood why so many different traditions have all converged on these same nocturnal hours. Something undeniably real happens in the human brain around 3 a.m. These religions, in their own ways, were responding to that reality, even if they chose to explain it through mythological lenses. And Albert Einstein himself experienced something he called the cosmic religious feeling. This wasn't a belief in some personal God, but rather a profound sense of awe before the mathematical order inherent in the universe. It was that unmistakable sense that human consciousness is somehow inextricably connected to something far vaster and more mysterious. It was that feeling that washes over you when you truly grasp just how profoundly strange and yet achingly beautiful existence truly is. Einstein famously stated that this feeling was the wellspring, the very source of all true science and art. And he also noted that it was most accessible when the rational mind consciously stepped back and allowed something deeper to rise to the surface, just like it does at 3 a.m. So the next time you find yourself awake in the dead of night, consider this. You are not broken. Your hiccup in their sleep pattern is not malfunctioning. You're actually experiencing a unique window of consciousness that Albert Einstein himself would have treasured. Instead of desperately fighting to fall back asleep, try something radically different. Lie perfectly still, there in the darkness. Simply notice what thoughts begin to arise without trying to judge or control them. Pay close attention to the sensations, the subtle feelings within your body. See if any fresh insights or unexpected connections begin to present themselves. You might discover that your 3 a.m. mind actually has something important to tell you. A particularly thorny problem that you've been struggling with might suddenly appear in a completely different light. A complex relationship that's been confusing you might suddenly make perfect sense. A creative project that felt hopelessly stuck might suddenly burst wide open. Here are a few specific practices that Albert Einstein and many other great thinkers throughout history have used to effectively harness this unique nocturnal window. First, keep a notebook right there by your bedside. When you wake at 3 a.m. with a fleeting thought or insight, write it down immediately. The 3 a.m. mind notoriously forgets what it knew just moments before. Capture that insight while it's still fresh and vivid. Second, before you finally succumb to slumber, spend a few minutes consciously focusing on a specific problem that you're actively trying to solve. Do this gently, without anxiety, and without applying undue pressure. Simply hold the question softly in your mind as you drift off. You're essentially giving your subconscious a very specific assignment. You're subtly telling it what to actively work on while you sleep. Third, when you wake in the middle of the night, resist the urge to immediately reach for your phone. The harsh, bright light will instantly suppress your melatonin production, and fully activate your daytime brain. Instead, remain in the darkness. Linger in that liminal threshold state. See what naturally arises before you forcibly yank yourself back into ordinary consciousness. Fourth, don't fight the waking. If you resist and struggle relentlessly to fall back asleep, you'll inevitably create stress. And stress releases cortisol, which, unfortunately, effectively destroys that special neurochemical environment that makes the 3 a.m. window so unique. Accept the waking. Welcome it. Treat it as a valuable opportunity rather than a frustrating problem. Fifth, if unexpected insights do come, don't simply dismiss them out of hand. In the cold light of morning, your rational mind will undoubtedly try to convince you that your 3 a.m. thoughts were ultimately foolish, and sometimes it's right. But other times, your daytime mind is simply too narrowly focused, too constrained to fully appreciate what your nighttime mind so brilliantly discovered. Therefore, give those nocturnal insights a fair and honest hearing. Albert Einstein himself used variations of all of these techniques throughout his extraordinary life. He wasn't just some genius by pure accident. He actively cultivated his genius through intentional practices that gave his subconscious mind ample room to actively work. Or you might simply experience the profound strangeness of consciousness itself, the quiet mystery of being fully aware in a darkened room while the rest of the world sleeps, the almost imperceptible boundary between the self that actively thinks and the vast unconsciousness that endlessly dreams. Albert Einstein lived his entire life right there at that elusive boundary. He implicitly trusted the power of the unconscious. He actively cultivated that hypnagogic state, that liminal space between waking and sleep. And he deeply honored the intuitive mind as a truly sacred gift. He once shared that he often thought in music, that he actually lived his daydreams in music. He would famously play the violin for hours on end, not merely as entertainment, but as a deliberate means of accessing those elusive states of mind that pure rational thinking simply couldn't reach. Music, much like sleep itself, quiets the incessantly chattering rational mind and creates the necessary space for something far deeper to organically emerge. Albert Einstein leveraged every available tool to actively access those deeper layers of consciousness where true insight resides. And he was certainly not alone in this pursuit. Salvador Dali, the renowned surrealist painter, famously used the very same spoon technique that Albert Einstein himself employed so effectively. Dali playfully called it slumber with a key. He too understood that the delicate boundary between waking and sleeping was particularly fertile ground for sparking creativity. The esteemed philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche penned many of his most groundbreaking ideas in those early morning hours, when he found himself unable to sleep. He viewed insomnia not as some curse or affliction, but rather as a genuine gift, a unique window into profound truths that the daylight mind was simply too busy to even notice. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke penned his greatest works during periods of intense nocturnal wakefulness. He believed that the night was when the soul spoke most clearly, when the noise of the world faded away and something essential could finally be heard. All of these thinkers stumbled upon the same truth. The mind is not a singular entity. It has many modes of operation, and the mode that activates around 3 a.m. is distinctly different from, and in some ways superior to, the one that hums along at 3 p.m. You don't need to be an Albert Einstein to tap into this unique state. You simply need to shift your perspective. Instead of viewing your nighttime awakenings as problems needing a fix, begin to see them as opportunities, ripe for exploration. The 3 a.m. mind is patiently waiting for you. It's been waiting your whole life. Every time you stirred in the darkness and struggled to fall back asleep, you were, in essence, turning your back on an invitation, a chance for something more. Albert Einstein embraced that invitation, and in doing so, he changed the world. Comment 3 a.m. if you find yourself regularly waking at this hour. Share your experiences. Is it a time of peace or unsettling unease? Do insights, seemingly out of nowhere, come to you? Do you sense a presence? Comment sleeper if you typically sleep soundly through the entire night. Perhaps your unconscious diligently performs its work without needing to surface into your awareness. Perhaps your unique gifts simply manifest in different forms. And tell me this, now that you understand what Albert Einstein intuitively grasped about this hour, will you approach your next 3 a.m. awakening any differently? I'm committed to reading every comment within the first 2 hours. This conversation is of paramount importance because the night holds secrets that the daylight can never reveal. Albert Einstein dedicated his life to listening for those elusive secrets. He unearthed them in his dreams, his power naps, and those quiet, contemplative hours when the world lay still in slumber. Perhaps you too can find them. 3 a.m. is not random. It is a deliberate invitation. The darkness is not an empty void. It is teeming with untapped possibility. The silence is not an absence of sound. It's the very space where profound insights can finally emerge. The waking that feels like an inconvenience is, in reality, a priceless gift. Albert Einstein profoundly understood this truth. He structured his entire life around it, and the groundbreaking theories that surfaced from his nocturnal mind have revolutionized our comprehension of space, time, and the very fabric of reality. What wonders might emerge from yours? The only question that remains is whether or not you will choose to accept the invitation. Tonight, as the clock strikes 3 a.m., recall what you've learned here today. Remember that your brain is operating in a heightened and uniquely receptive state. Remember that your ancestors honored this specific hour for a profoundly good reason. Remember that Albert Einstein himself actively sought out this very state of consciousness. And instead of reflexively fighting to drift back to sleep, remain awake and for just a moment, genuinely listen to what the darkness is trying to tell you. You just might be surprised by what you hear.